Hi lovelies, you're welcome back to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, you're welcome back and I appreciate. So I'm going to be drafting this beautiful stylish top here on my screen. So let's get started. I've gone ahead to fold my paper by two. Okay, I fold my paper on fold. So this is my shoulder line, my bust line, my under bust line, my front waistline, then the full length line. Okay, so I made use of 25 inches for the full length line. That is from my shoulder to the full length of this top. Okay, and then from my shoulder to my bust line, from my shoulder to my under bust line, from my shoulder to my front waistline of 18 inches. So after doing that, just go ahead and determine your own measurement. Okay, from the full length line I came down by 2.5 inches just to get that V shape that this dress have at the front. Okay, now go ahead and rule a straight line on this line here. Now after doing that, the next thing I would do is to divide my shoulder measurement by 2 will give me 8 inches after dividing 16 inches by 2. So I'm going to mark the 8 inches on my shoulder line, and then I will mark 3 inches for the neck wideness, 1.5 inches for the neck depth. Now the top of this, like the yoke of this dress, is like a high neck pattern, so you can make use of 1.5 inches or 2 inches. Okay, now I'll go ahead and connect the point like so. So from the 8 inches point on my shoulder line, I'll come down by 1 inch to get my shoulder slope, and then I'll connect it to the neck wideness on the shoulder line. Now I'm going to divide my armhole circumference divided by 2. So after dividing 17 inches by 2, what I have is 8.5 inches. I'll mark the point here, and then I'll go ahead to connect the point like so to the shoulder slope. After connecting it like so, I'll also connect it this way, rule a straight line here, and then this line will be my chest line. After doing that, I'll just label this my chest line, and then I will divide the armhole circumference by 2. I'll get the midpoint. Then from that midpoint, I will go in by half of an inch, and then I will take my bust circumference divided by 4. I will place it here on the chest line, and then I'll go ahead to connect the front armhole like so. After doing that, I'll divide my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. I have 8 inches here, so I'll divide it by 2 to get 4 inches. From my bust line here, I'll mark the 4 inches all the way to the last line I have on my pattern paper. Then I'll go ahead and rule a straight line connecting those points together. Now this is my dart line. After doing that, the next thing I will do is, this is my center front and this is my side front. So from the center front here on the last line I have on the center front, I'll mark 0.5 inch all the way to the under bust line like so. After doing that, I'll go ahead to connect the points together. So this is the 0.5 inch that I made use of on the center front, okay? Now after doing that, on the side front here, I'm going to be making use of 1 inch. And this is because I'm not a busty person. But if you're a busty person, you can make use of 1.5 inches on this side front, okay? So go ahead and mark it all the way from the last line you have at the center front, the side front I mean to say, to the under bust line like so. Then use your ruler to connect the points together. Now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do, like I said before, if you're on a busty, like if you're a busty person, make use of 1.5 inches on the side front, then the same 0.75 on the center front. Now on the dart leg, below the bust line on the dart leg, I came down by 1 inch, and then I'll go ahead to draw the cup like so. After doing that, I will divide what I have on my shoulder measurement by 2, and I'll get the midpoint. I'll mark the point and then I'll connect it to the dart leg on my bust line. So after connecting it, the next thing I will do is to come off from the chest line by 1.5 inches. Now this is how covered I want the cleavage, my cleavage to be. So you can make use of 2 inches, 1.5 inches. It depends on what you want at this point. So I'll go ahead now and rule a straight line on that point that I have here, and I'm going to label this line my upper chest line. After doing that, from the center front here on the upper chest line, I'll make use of 0.75. Then for the side front, I'll make use of 1 inch. So for if you're a busty person, just make use of the same 1 inch for that particular area, okay? Now I will go ahead and connect the points like so. Now this has formed my bustier cup. The next thing I'm going to do now is to measure from this point here to the upper chest line point here. This is just to get the difference between the two cups. So the center front cup here is 4.25 inches. While on the other side, which is the side front, I measured it and I got 4.5 inches. So I'm going to increase the center front by 1/4 of an inch just to match the side front cup length, okay? So after doing that, I'm going to come down from my upper chest line on the center front by 1/2 of an inch, and then I'll go ahead to connect it this way. Now you can connect it straight if you want, it depends on what you want, okay? So I'll go ahead and do this like so, and then I will connect the side armhole like so. So after doing that, I'm going to take my bust circumference divided by 4, which I already did here. I'll replace the dart intake on my upper chest line here on my chest line. And then I will take my front waist measurement divided by 4. I'll mark the point there. I'll replace the dart intake I have here. And then on the full length line, I'll take my hip circumference divided by 4. I'll mark the point there. Now this particular dress has like a free this thing at the side. So I'm going to be adding 1.5 inches just to give you that freeness or that free allowance at the side of this dress, okay? So I made use of 1.5 inches. You can make use of 1 inch. It depends on what you want. Now I'll go ahead and replace the dart intake that I have there as well. I'll mark the point there, and then I'll go ahead to connect the body points like so. So after connecting the body point like so, the next thing I will do is to come down from my bust line by 1.5 inches. And this is the difference between my front half length and my back half length. Now, if you watch my videos, you realize I usually do this just to close up the side that, okay? Now I'll go ahead and close this up later on. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is from this, my center front on the front waistline, I'll come down by 2 inches. And from that 2 inches point, I will have to close this, join these two dots together like so. Then I will use my curve rule to connect it from that point that I mark, that I came down by on the center front. I will have to mark it this way, connect it all the way to the dart leg, okay? Now I'll go ahead and connect the down part of this dress like so to the full length line. Now you can go ahead and come up from the full length line by 1 inch and connect it to that point to get like a more V shape for the front of this dress, okay? Now after doing that, this is what I have. Next thing I will do is to transfer whatever design that I have here, whatever pattern that I have here to the other side as well, okay? Now I'll go ahead and do that. So after doing that, this is what I have. I'll go ahead and open this up through the bust line just to close the side dart. So I'm going to be closing the two side of the side dart. I will go ahead, use my tape to secure this down. So after securing this down, I will replace whatever that I shortened from the side because of the dart that I closed. Now from this point here on the side, one side of the dress, I'm going to come out from this point by 1 inch, and then I'll connect it to the dart that I have on my shoulder line, okay? Now I'll use my pencil to connect it to that my shoulder line, that's okay, and then I will use my marker to outline it so it will be more visible. Now after doing that, on the other side of the dress, from this part here, I will go in by 1/2 of an inch, and then I will use my curve to connect it to the same point that I have my shoulder dart like so. Now this is for my front yoke. So I'll go ahead now to cut the front piece out. So I will go ahead and also cut out the yoke like so. And I will also cut out the center front like so. After doing that, this is what I have for the front pattern. as you can see. So I'll go ahead to draft the back pattern now. So for the back pattern, I'm going to be making use of 16.5 inches for my half length, okay? So if I minus the 1.5 inches from the 25 inches length that I used for the front pattern, I'm going to be having 23 and a half, okay? So I'll go ahead now and measure from my shoulder to 23 and a half, okay? Now from my shoulder to my bust point, I'll measure. From my shoulder to my back waistline, I'll measure, and then the 23 inches for the full length of the back pattern. Remember, the half length of the front and the back is not always the same thing. So I'll go in by 1.5 inches on every line that I have on my pattern paper, and this area is for my zipper allowance. Now I'll just go ahead and label this my zipper allowance. So from my back waistline on the zipper allowance, I'll go in by half of an inch. I'll mark the point there, and then I'll connect it like so. Now this is to avoid any zipper bulginess when fixing your dress, okay? Now I'm doing this way, so in case you want to make use of zip for this dress, you can make use of it. So I'm going to be cutting this side out. Now I'm going to be taking 8 inches for my shoulder measurement. On my shoulder line, I'll mark the point there. Then I'll take 3 inches for the neck wideness. I'll make use of 1.5 inches for the neck depth. Remember, I'm taking every measurement from the zipper allowance line, okay? Now I'll go ahead and connect the point like so. Then on that 8 inches point, I'll come down by 1 inch to get my shoulder slope. So I'll connect it to the neck wideness on my shoulder line. Now I'm going to mark my arm circumference divided by 2, which I have 8.5 inches. I'll connect the point like so to the shoulder slope point. And I'll also rule a straight line across like so. This line will be my chest line. So I'll label it my chest line, and then I will divide my arm circumference by 2, and then I'll get the midpoint. So I'm not going to go in by half of an inch on the back pattern for the armhole. Now I'm going to take my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll mark the point on my chest line and then connect the back armhole like so. After doing that, I'm going to take my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which I have 4 inches. So from my bust line here, I'm going to mark that 4 inches all the way to the full length line. Please also mark it on your chest line, okay? Now I'll go ahead and rule a straight line on those points that I have here. So this is my dart leg. Now I'm going to go in from the back waistline. I'll mark half inch on besides the dart leg, and then I will come up from this point here by 1.5 inches, which is not really necessary, okay? So I'll just go ahead now and connect the dart like so. Now I'll go ahead and take my bust measurements divided by 4, which I already did. I'll take my waist measurement divided by 4, and then I'll replace the dart intake of 1 inch. Then on the full length line, I'll take my hip circumference divided by 4, and then I'm going to mark the point there, and I will also take the 1.5 inches I took for the front pattern just to give this dress that free shape that it has, okay? Now I'll mark the point there, and then I'll go ahead to connect the body points like so. So please go ahead and add your allowance while cutting on your fabric at the side, okay? Now below the full length line, I will come down by 1.5 inches. This is because I want to give this dress at the center back length. So I want to give it length. That's the reason why I'm adding this 1.5 inches below the full length line. Now I will go ahead and just extend the zipper area here like so. I'm just extending it to that line, and then the next thing I will do is just to connect from that point, from the center back point like this, to the front waistline at the side like so, just to give it that shape. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to come down from this my neck depth by 1 inch. This is where the button is going to sit, okay? And then I'll use my pencil to connect it this way just to get the yoke of this dress. Now after using my pencil, I will use my marker to outline it as well, okay? Now this is it for the yoke. I'll just go ahead and measure out 1/4 inch this way just to avoid gaping for the yoke. Now I'll go ahead and label this my back yoke. Now the next thing I'm going to do, if you're making use of this as zip, you can just draft it this way and make use of it just for zip. But if you are making use of your rope, just go ahead from this point at the chest line, go in by 2.5 inches or 3 inches, depending on how wide you want the loop at the back to be, that is the spacing. Now from this point here, go in by half of an inch. Remember, you're taking your measurement from the zipper allowance line. Now I'll go ahead and connect it this way because the back of this dress, the loop is not in a straight form, it's actually in like a V form. Okay, so this is how it's going to look like. I'm going to be cutting off that side if I'm making use of rope. Okay, now I'll go ahead and cut this out. So I'm just cutting out the yoke first, and then I'll cut this through the chest line, and also cut out this zipper area that I'm going to cut out to avoid any zipper bulginess. Then I'll also go ahead to cut out the dart area like so. So this is how it is if you're making use of it as zip. Okay, just go ahead and label this where it's facing each other. But if you are not making use of zip, just go ahead and cut it from this point, and this is what you have. Okay, this is if I'm making use of rope, and this is all for this back pattern. Please do not forget to subscribe, comment, share, and like. I'll see you in my next video.